Palworld has finally announced their PvP arena. Slated for 2024, we can expect this to finally drop probably in the later half of the year, but that gives us plenty of time to get ready. In this video, we are going to discuss everything you need to do to be completely ready to crush the competition when the PvP releases. Let's get into the video. Let's start by breaking down this 11-second trailer they posted where we can see a couple of new things. First, we have this green Quiverin right here. This either indicates that we're going to get shinies finally in Palworld, but more than likely it'll be just a subspecies of Quiverin. Second, we can notice this beautiful arena that we have here that's currently not in the game anywhere, so I'm guessing this will probably be like an instant dungeon almost for players. However, the most important thing we can see is the battle itself. This PvP arena will seemingly be 3v3 and the player. Items are apparently still on, as we can see the grappling hook, although it still remains to be seen what pals we can get in, if there will be a set level, if it's just presets for like items and things, etc. Personally, I'm hoping for a set level, but still the pals you create are being used rather than like the Pokemon Stadium rental feature. I would guess that this would be the case just because we can see the player here using the assault rifle, although it could still be a loadout choice, but that would be surprising if they just opted for the presets. Now, on to the good stuff. So by now you're probably thinking, okay Mogul, blah blah, just tell me how to be the best in PvP. Well, the answer is quite simple and we can look at it in a few different ways. Of course, the first thing is the player has to be ready themselves. This means you're probably going to have to do a bunch of farming for the legendary gear drops. At the least, you'll probably want to have the cold and heat resistant PAL armor, the PAL helmet, and then whatever weapons you want to use. If you want to know all of the locations for every single legendary drop, check out the video in the playlist, but for now we're just going to focus on the important ones. I actually prefer the assault rifle, and you get that from Blazemut. This legendary clumsy jet dragon has the best rocket launcher in the game. Frostallion has the legendary PAL helmet, and finally, Necromus and Palladius have the cold and heat PAL armors respectively. Bonus tip, if you go at night, you only have to fight Necromus and not Palladius. And these will be the primary ones that you're going to need if we are allowed to take them to the PvP arena. But now we have to talk about the more important part of the PvP arena, the pals. More specifically, we'll break down the ideal stats and the methods in order to get the perfect pals you want for your team. Luckily, as of the newest patch, there's brand new ability glasses, which can easily let us see pal IVs, and yeah, that's the same idea as Pokemon. Once you equip the glasses after creating them, you'll see every pal has this little box of information next to their name and health bar. We obviously want these three stats to be as close to 100 as possible through breeding, ranking up, and just finding them in the wild. Remember, to rank up your pals, you're going to need small, medium, and large pal souls to make your HP, attack, and defense stronger for your chosen pals. Similar situation for having the 116 pals that you need in total to condense in the pal condenser. And while that is a bit repetitive, it's pretty easily achieved through breeding, which we'll go into great detail in the next section. And we're going to use a couple of really good examples to get those perfect stats that you need, like my Blazemut or Anubis, who I do plan on bringing in. As a prelude to lead us into that section, make sure you have the 20% to element damage stats that are easily found in the wild. And yeah, you can get them through breeding, but it takes much longer. The 20% stats are mostly found in the wildlife sanctuaries or from the legendary pals, but here they all are. At wildlife sanctuary number 3, you can find Lylene, who has Spirit Emperor, as well as Orzerk, who has Lord of Lightning. As for the alpha pals we need to look out for, Blazemut has Flame Emperor, Yormantide has Lord of the Sea, and Anubis has the Earth Emperor. All that's left is our legendary pals, such as Frostallion, who has the Ice Emperor, the clumsy Jet Dragon, who has Divine Dragon, and then we revisit Necromus and Palladius, who have Lord of the Underworld and Celestial Emperor. These of course are just one of the stats we will use on our OP pals in the end, so now let's talk about how to get the rest of them through breeding time. Our examples here will be Legend, Musclehead, Ferocious, and then the boost of your choice from that type damage we were talking about. However, if you do want to swap one of these for something like Burly Body, or even for a work-based pal instead that would have like Work Slave, Legend, etc., the process is just going to be the same, you just gotta substitute it out. In our Blazemut example we're going to use, the first step into breeding these pals is to find the easiest stat to start with. In most cases, this is going to be legend because that comes from the legendary pals and you can just get that into the pool very easily. It also helps to plan out your breeding pathway. For instance, for Blazemut, we know what the last breeding combination we have to use is, which was Suzaku Aqua and Blazemut. So we started off with Necromus and Suzaku so we could pass down legend. And we're saving a good amount of time here with our breeding because we're using Suzaku, who will eventually lead into Suzaku Aqua. Once you have legend passed down a pretty good amount into your breeding pool, we're going to repeat this process for your 20% stat. For Blazemut, we just wanted to get as much Flame Emperor around as possible, and since we already knew our breeding pathway, we knew we were going to have to spam Suzaku Aqua and Blazemut at the end. With this idea, I knew that my Suzaku Blue was going to have the most stats I needed, at least Legend, Ferocious, and Musclehead. Speaking of Ferocious and Musclehead, or whatever extra stat you're going to want, it's going to be the trickiest part, but it's still not too bad as long as you have some patience. Luckily, with how OP breeding is in Palworld, almost any pal can be eventually used in any series of breedings to get the stats where you want them. In other words, pretty much any pal can work if you know the correct pathway. For this Blazemut example, I used Beacon and Sweepa to get Yormintide, who I knew was going to be essential to get Suzaku Aqua. And after some time, I finally got Musclehead and Ferocious to pass down. Now that my Suzaku has Musclehead, Ferocious, and Legend, I can try for the final piece. Combining it with the Flame Emperor Wild Blazemut I caught, it'll just be patience from here on out. Here's another extra couple of tips to help you along the way. Obviously, it helps to know your breeding pathway, so use resources like Paldex.io, breeding calculators to see what you need to get your end product. Second, switch out for better pals as you get them. Each pal you breed gets closer and closer to the one that you're going to need, and will ultimately give you better odds. As a third tip, when first starting to get the skills into the pool, like with Legend and the 20%, it really helps to have a clean slate pal, or one that has as few stats as possible. Like if you had a Jet Dragon with Legend, pair it with something that has one or no skills, there's going to be a lot better chance to only end up with Legend. This is also going to be great for the long run since you'll be avoiding a lot of the negative skills that we do not want. I know this breeding section was a lot of information, so definitely ask questions if you need advice or clarification in the comments. I've already done this perfect breeding method for all of my pals that I plan on bringing into the arena, so I'll definitely help out if I can. But between this breeding method here, as well as farming those legendary gear drops for your player build, and of course the repetitive ranking up portion, that's going to be pretty much everything that you need to know in order to get the best possible party for your PvP pals. Ultimately, what party and pals you want to use are up to you, and there are some special strategies you can do, but I'll leave that to all of you guys. But let me know below if you are excited for PvP and what teams you're going to be using, because I personally couldn't be any more excited for PvP coming later this year. I can't wait to hear from all of you, and I thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like this video if it helped you out in any way, and that's it. Subscribe and follow for more Palworld, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.